to feed your soul.
Welcome, folks, to episode 3 of the Practical Preppers podcast. I'm your host, Nihal Kaur. Today I'm talking about what non-perishable foods are to me and why I think specific types of food are valuable additions to one's pantry. My goal is to focus on calorie-dense whole foods that will nourish our bodies and to focus on foods that are easy to prepare, offer versatility, and have a long shelf life. These are the types of food that I prefer to keep on hand. There are more options available than what I'm listing today, and I am sharing with you today what foods we keep on hand as a vegetarian family of 5. I think it's important to note that we do not rely on freezer storage, and we only keep novelty items in the freezer. Another thing is that we don't rely on refrigeration storage. So we use the fridge, we use the freezer for things like, frozen French fries, ice cream, maybe frozen samosas, like novelty items, not our food staples that we are dependent on. Because if the power goes out and for some reason we can't get the power back on or whatever, I think it's important that we have all of our food actually secure in the pantry. So first I'm going to start off by talking about dried goods, then I'll move on to fats, then I will move on to produce. So as far as dried goods goes, the most of what we would consume as far as protein and all that, we start with lentils and beans. These legumes, they're packed with proteins, fiber, and carbs that can be cooked down into stews, they can be ground into flour substitutes or additives, or processed into tofu. They can be sprouted and eaten raw. Beans and lentils are extremely versatile and they can store beyond 10 years when stored in airtight containers. Moving on from beans to rice. Rice and beans go together extremely well. But talking about rice, white rices, they have a longer shelf life than brown rices, and they can store for up to 10 years. White rices can store up to 10 years in airtight containers. Rice is also a great source of filling carbs, and it also has versatile uses. It can be used as a flour additive when ground down into a powder. It can be boiled, it can be fermented and used in recipes like dosa or idli batter, or they can even be fermented and made into alcohol. This next ingredient, this is a staple in our diet. This is something that we eat almost every single day. It is whole wheat flour. Now, whole wheat, it has a shelf life of about 6 months when you buy it ground, while wheat berries, which is what the whole wheat is made out of, wheat berries, they can be milled into flour, and the wheat berries have a shelf life of about 30 years when they're properly stored. Whole wheat, it can be baked into breads, it can be made into pastries, it can be made into pasta. I typically make it into flatbread because that's the easiest with the least amount of ingredients. It can be made into pancakes. It can be kneaded into seitan, which is super high in protein. And there's just an endless amount of things that you can do with whole wheat. For us, for the most part, we make roti or paranta, which is like an Indian flatbread. And from time to time, we might make sweets, but a meal does not feel complete without having a roti in it for us. So it's absolutely a staple in our household. So between beans, rice, and whole wheat, that is plenty of fats, proteins, and fibers to get by if you really needed to and you didn't have anything else to depend on. So I think that those are great pantry staples to rely on, to have in bulk, and to learn how to use, learn how to cook them, and learn how to make them taste great, because they are great additions to one's pantry. All right, now moving on to fats. There are lots of fats that can store well. If you eat meat, then tallow would be one of them. I do not eat meat, so we keep on hand ghee, which is also known as clarified butter, but ghee, we keep olive oil, and we keep mustard oil for cooking. Some fats that you might not think of as fats actually come in foods, right? So olives are high in fat, cashews, peanuts, almonds, chia seeds, flax seeds, poppy seeds. Pretty much nuts and seeds have lots of great fats in them and typically have protein in them as well. All right, now moving on to snacks and just some enjoyable types of things that you might want to have in your pantry because you don't want to have like just beans and rice. Like you want to have things that you can enjoy so that way in hard times you can also have treats, and make everyone happy. So we keep pickles, jams, peanut butter, grits, polenta, oats, achar, which is an Indian pickle. We keep soy flour, dried soy chunks, popcorn, protein bars, and we keep some canned goods as well. So whatever that might look like to you, if you really enjoy like condensed milk or something for the sweetness, you can definitely do that. You could keep maybe dried milk and maybe even like hot chocolate or something that's sweet and enjoyable that can like help everyone feel calm during hard times. I think that's actually extremely worth it to keep on hand in your pantry if you have the space. All right, now moving on to spices, herbs. Herbs are amazing. They can be both flavorful and medicinal. And some herbs help put you to sleep and relieve anxiety, while other herbs have antiviral qualities. So some herbs are warming while others are cooling, and knowledge about herbalism is beneficial and practical to prepping. Let's take rosemary, for example. Not only does it make your food taste better, but it also has some medicinal properties that can reduce fevers, it can be antiviral, it can help your hair grow. There's lots of great benefits to eating rosemary. And that's just one example of many herbs that have so many different benefits when consumed. All right, next we move on to produce. Produce, we might not typically consider produce to be a non-perishable food item, but there are tons of produce items that store for a long time and are shelf stable for a long time. So those types of items include onions, garlic, ginger, butternut squash, acorn squash, delicata squash, kabocha squash, apples, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and carrots. Now, an additional food source that isn't necessarily shelf stable, but kind of would be livestock and live animals. So we own chickens, and this gives us two optional food sources if necessary. We don't eat our chickens. I haven't eaten meat in years, but honestly, if push came to shove, then I know how to process one. I would absolutely eat them if there wasn't other options. But I do enjoy keeping our chickens, and we do use the eggs. So I eat the eggs, and I think that is a great food source because we get several eggs every day, which is packed full of protein and fats. So that's a valuable resource for food. If you can get your hands on getting a couple of chicks, they're like not very expensive to buy. The food itself is like, I buy 2 bags of feed a month, so max $30 a month to keep them fed. And if you're getting, if you're getting eggs from the store right now, they're about $6 for a dozen, and I get plenty more than that each month. So I think I am getting more eggs per month than what they eat and feed. So I think it's absolutely worth it and a great additional food source, especially if you're trying to be economical about it. Like I use rainwater to keep my chickens hydrated, and I do provide them with feed, although they absolutely could survive strictly from scavenging in the yard if push came to shove. So that's something to keep in mind and consider. Now, I also wanted to give a recipe for one of the staple foods that we eat every single day. It's really easy to make. It's just 2 ingredients. It is whole wheat and water. So that recipe is for a flatbread called roti. Roti is made from, again, like I said, whole wheat flour and water. You can also add some flour additives if you wanted to. Like you could put soy flour or rice flour. You can use any additives in there if you wanted to add in extra protein, or if you needed to stretch your flour for some reason, you can absolutely do that and it would work just as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to take about a cup. So for a family of 5, I'll do 2 cups of flour. So you'll take, keep that in mind as well. So we're going to go off my family of 5 recipe, right? 2 cups of whole wheat flour, and then slowly put water into the flour as you mix it together. You're going to knead the water and the flour together into a soft but not sticky dough. And then next you're going to let it rest for a little bit. Then you're going to shape that flour into small golf ball sized balls, and then you're going to flatten them evenly. I will take it's a disc now at this point. So like when you make the ball out of dough and then you flatten it, it should be shaped like a fat disc, all right? So then you take that fat disc and then you dip either side of it into dry flour, and then that's when you can either use your hands to press it, or you can use a dough roller to roll the disc into a flat circle. You want to get a flat pan. We have one specific called a tava. It's a cast iron flat pan. So you want to get a flat pan and you want to put it on the heat over medium low to medium heat. And once it's hot, that is when you're going to take your flat circle of dough and you're going to lay it flat onto the pan. All right. And then as soon as the top side that hasn't touched the pan yet starts to darken in color, that's when you know it's time to flip it. So then you're going to flip your roti, you're going to cook the underside, and then you're going to continue flipping it back and forth until the wheat has been completely cooked through. And you'll know it's cooked through when it's not doughy. It's going to be mostly tan in color, and you might have some like darker spots from where it got heated up. They say that if you're really hungry, that your roti will puff up into a big ball. You don't really want it to puff up into a big ball because then it'll cook unevenly, like it'll cook right in the center but not at the end. So if it does start to puff up, you want to smush it down. Like, don't let it puff up. Now, once it's cooked, you're going to take it off of the flat pan, and you're going to use some ghee or butter and spread that on top to soften it up even further. And yeah, eat it hot. It is great. I mean, this bread, honestly, it's a daily staple in our household. And again, a meal, it doesn't feel complete without it. So I'm really happy to have shared that recipe with you. It's so simple and easy to make. It's filling, it's delicious. It's way easier than baking a bread. And you can make a ton of roti with it. All right, with that, I really appreciate you joining me today on episode number 3 in talking about shelf-stable foods. I think that it's extremely important, especially now when SNAP benefits are being cut off to a lot of people who are unfortunately dependent on SNAP benefits. You know, a lot of these ingredients that I mentioned today that we keep in our pantry, they're affordable. They are low-cost items that are shelf-stable for long periods of time. They're so versatile. You can make them into anything, honestly. They're delicious, and they are whole foods. They are nutritious. They're great for your body. So if you know anybody, especially anybody who is struggling a little bit, might be on SNAP benefits, that they're not going to be receiving those payments for a while, absolutely share this episode with them, and I hope that it helps out. So again, thank you for listening today, and I will see you over in episode number 4. Take care, y'all.
It's time for you to learn your strength and what you can control. We've been running around doing what we're told, chasing a dream that we've been sold, as we work so hard to build our home. There's a freedom in the dirt only dreamers know. We all want to live each day. Let me show you a better way. Let's ground our hearts and soul. Seeds of hope. There's a better your soul.